Welcome to Convoys with Nifa, where we teach, inform, expose, learn, and discuss issues related to our communities for sustainable community development. I am Hanifa Kut, your host.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Convoys with Nifa. I am here with Partricia, who will tell us about herself, what she does before we dive into the conversation. Karibu Partricia.
Asante sana. So my name is Partricia Kombo. Partricia was born and raised in Makueni County, and I run a community-based organization called Partricia. And funny enough, people think Partricia originated from my name Partricia.
I actually think
no. Actually, the idea of Partricia, when we were learning about mathematics, per annum. Annum. So it's Partricia. And the rationale behind it is because I wanted every child to plant one tree during their school life. And how Partricia came to be actually up to date is something that still I look back and laugh because growing up, actually, yes, my dad was a non-timber seller. I have grown trees for my dad. When we closed schools, it was for us, our family, it was tree nurseries, planted trees. But all this time, we were not planting until
for conservation or anything.
It was my dad's business. Yeah. And we have a lot of forests, but now it stopped when actually the idea of conservation came. So I knew how to establish a nursery when I was at class 3.
Wow!
Because everyone used to be given a nursery, you not water it, and my dad actually would give you presents based on how your nursery.
Incentives, motivation.
Yeah, I can tell you, I really hate. You were like, guys, another trees.
Yeah.
I really hated anything to do with land, farming, trees. It was one of the most boring. Every time I kept on thinking, why was I born in a rural village? You envision children in the cities, they are watching, they are
having the time of their life.
And my dad was strict. If he says we are doing 10,000 trees, even if it rains, you will plant until you meet his target. So I really hated. So even in high school, I never did that because of another soil up and down. It was. Yeah. But now in my second year, when I was now going to that year, I did my internship with a Facebook-funded organization. It was dealing with farmers. And it happened they had a project in Lodwar during the Kenyans for Kenya initiative. And I'm in university and there's opportunity for people to travel to Lodwar.
You wanted to go.
It's a road trip.
I've never been to Lodwar.
Yeah. And at first the rumor was people will fly to Lodwar. I've never been to.
Opportunity.
So I never volunteered because of humanity. I'm always honest. It was.
It started from somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like, this is a road trip. We are going to Lodwar. It's fun.
Yeah.
So the day comes. We did not go with flight. We used matatu. It was a long journey. So when we got there, the first day, the temperatures, you're sweating, you're waking up, you're sweating, and it's events, traveling, donating food. It's like we do not even have a time.
You can't rest.
No resting, no fun, nothing. It's work. And it was a 2-week stay. So during my stay, actually, I started learning what I was doing, working with communities, learning. And actually, I was interacting more with children and women. And every day, I started, gaining interest, trying to understand from the children. And by then, because my undergraduate was on communication, I'm writing blogs, I'm writing. Then one day, when I was just having this casual conversation with a young boy, I was like wondering, how do you find this entire space, and he was confident and saying, sisi tumezoea hii jua kali. Then deep down in my heart, now it
wished for the shade.
Yeah, it sank to me how I grew up in an environment We used to climb. Even me today, I do climb trees. You could find
That's not real.
100%. You used to find me in guava trees, mango trees. Even when my shushu wanted avocados, I used to be called because I grew up with trees, eating these fruits, swimming. And now when I was just in Lodwar, now I flashed back how my childhood was. And being sent to fetch water, then instead of fetching water has to go swimming, you're beaten. It was a beautiful childhood memories with ecosystem, nature. But now I'm in another part of the country where these children actually
I've not experienced any of
zero.
this.
And they think it's normal. It's for them, it's like a way of life. So from there, when I was actually the idea came from there. How can I give these children voice and change that it's a normal? We are used to this
narrative.
Yeah, to say actually as a child, the constitution says I have a right to clean, healthy, a better and a livable planet. Just to change the narrative and the idea of Partricia working with children, first of all, training them on basic. What is climate change? What are changes in weather patterns? What has caused this? How can they stand and say, this is not the environment that I should live? The government, the policy, parents, we all need to come together collectively to make environment good for them. And boom, Partricia was born.
Wow. It starts from somewhere and it's like a river flowing from the forest and its tributaries to the lake or the ocean. That is wonderful. So today, I know we didn't even say the topic we're going to be focusing on. We're going to do part 3, trees and the issue of land. She has not said something related to land.
Okay.
Partricia,
Oh my goodness.
tell us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, everything started with Partricia. Now from there, I had now to go back to understand what is environment, to land. So I started initiatives towards land because I realized land as a whole has a lot of resources that we often overlook. We have soil, we have water, and we have biodiversity. So my main aim was now, after I trained kids on climate literacy, we need actually now to capacity build, or rather to train farmers, to train communities on sustainable land use practices. And through work into land, because I realized a lot of land degradation and us young people inheriting degraded landscapes, now I started working on restoring landscapes. And in 2020, I was honored to be recognized as a UNCCD land hero because of our work in trying to restore ecosystems and also to raise awareness on land as a key component in actually mitigating climate change and also building resilience and driving the livelihoods of communities to elevate poverty. So land has been my, I can say, identity, because land is me, land is food, land is fiber, land is prosperity. So if you take land away from me, it's like I'm empty, because even this dress I'm wearing today is courtesy of land because of the fiber aspect. The food that I've eaten is courtesy of feed. Land is life.
Yeah. You see, she's surrounded by land and she forgot to tell us that she's a land hero, which is also very important. In everything that you do, you need to be intentional and do it to the best of your ability, even if it's changing the lives of people to the level in which everyone can see. So, Partricia, why trees? Many people do a lot of tree planting, but many people don't understand why people plant trees. You see very many tree planting initiatives, and when people talk about environment, the first thing they run to is trees. But people don't understand why trees are very important. So why trees?
Okay. So I'll talk based on Partricia initiative. So when we started this idea, first of all, we started with climate literacy. And when we were training kids, we were training them on measures to which they can adapt, they can mitigate. And for us, first we started with growing indigenous trees, because we are looking at restoring.
Oh, before you continue, let me let me define adapt in climate
Oh, yeah.
change space and mitigate in climate change space. Adapt is the process in which you do something in order to cope to the situation, while mitigate is the process in which or what you do to reduce the emissions
Yeah.
of greenhouse gases in the environment.
Yeah. So we realize climate change is here with us, and it's not a tap. Climate change is gone. So I needed these children to learn to live in these climatic conditions to ensure they do not drop out of school, they are not malnutritioned, they understand why some things are happening, and actually they build their own resilience to ensure that they are not forced to the extreme to which they cannot adapt. So our first was growing indigenous trees, and with time I realized the rationale behind growing indigenous trees was for restoration purposes.
Yeah.
But in the community that I come, people have been cutting down trees for charcoal, for firewood. So I looked keenly, how will these indigenous trees have a direct benefit to the children? I know they have benefit to the ecosystem because of restoration, but because initially my idea was to work with children, so we changed the concept and we started growing fruit trees in schools around Kombo. So we thought of fruit trees, something that I could easily relate to a child. If you grow this mango tree, 5 or 10 years, you'll be enjoying fruits, because I was now starting from scratch, from a population, from a generation that does not understand the direct impacts of climate change, that does not understand why we are growing trees, and we had to start from the scratch. And like when you're educating children, you start by showing them like examples. It's not like when you're talking. So I'm like, it's mango season. How many of you have mangoes in your house? Every child is super active. Then you ask them, how many of you know the person who planted those trees? My father says they found that tree. Now from that you tell them, if you plant also your mango tree today, your children and next children will benefit. And also I was looking at the nutrition value, because in Lodwa I had seen how climate change and then the kids were not healthy. So we wanted to bring first the nutrition, to ensure children are fed, and also to show them the direct benefits of growing trees, which we were not able to get from growing other trees. So we started growing fruit trees, and growing trees is part of land restoration, because as we've said, land is one of the key commodities, one of the key assets that we should not lose as a continent. And one of the most basic things that everyone can do to restore is to grow the right trees in the right place. It's not just waking up and just growing a tree here because everyone is growing, because some trees actually are a threat to ecosystem and biodiversity if not well planted. So as we do most we do drought tolerant trees, and especially with the ones which you can do in the farms, like you can practice agroforestry. But majorly our key aspect has been growing fruit trees with the children, because through that you are able to train them, and also you are able to show them the direct benefits that they will be able to get.
Okay. So when you were talking about the plant restoration aspect, especially when it comes to trees, it brings out how very important these trees are to restoring even our degraded environment and land. And I was busy wondering. You said that where you come from, a lot of degradation had happened. And from my understanding, I know that when you plant trees, okay, for general understanding too, sometimes the trees are planted to restore degraded land, because they can hold the soil together and prevent topsoil erosion, and also ensure water retention, right?
Yes.
So through your given project, have you seen any changes in the region?
I can say yes, but now with trees, you don't see the results in 2-3 years time, because actually trees, they take time to mature, and also now to make this impact. And also another challenge that we lack is now to monitor and to monitor and document the progress. But scientifically proven, trees actually will help in retaining the moisture, making soils to be compact, and also when it rains, instead of they act as a barrier. So you find when the drops, they do not interfere with the soil because the leaves and branches will act as a barrier. So the magnitude of that drop, that rain drop, it's not that strong. It's weak. And also looking at now the global emissions, because carbon is soil, actually land is a key issue in storing carbon. So when we degrade, we actually exposing the already stored carbon to the atmosphere, which causes this. But now trees need a lot of patience. Like 5 to 10 years is when now it starts now actually benefiting. But there are some instant benefits like reducing erosion, but also the magnitude is not that big. So people should not be discouraged.
So it's actually important to note that we are talking about growing trees and not just planting trees. So some people do it as an action. We plant a tree, then the following year a different group plants trees there, and then you start wondering how comes our tree cover is not increasing. But it's not increasing because people are planting trees and not growing trees. Now to the land aspect. Land is very important for food security. On the other hand, when producing food, we actually lead to an extent somehow to land degradation itself, and as a chain effect to climate change, right? Can you explain that to us and also give us a solution on what we can do so that as we tackle issues of food security, because we can't stop eating, but we can do it in a way in which it's sustainable and does not destroy our environment.
Okay, agriculture is one of the key sectors that us as a continent we are very keen, and also globally because everyday population keeps on decreasing and people have to be fed. And that's why you find agriculture is one of the key emitters or other key contributors in the emissions. Why? If we fail to do sustainable agriculture, and agriculture actually leads to land degradation. It's the key leading driver of deforestation, freshwater decline, because agriculture needs all these other resources, and also biodiversity degradation. And when we look at now deforestation, it has been proven people will cut down trees because they want to expand for agricultural input to meet the current market dynamics, or rather the current demand for food. And this, when we do this degradation, this deforestation, we actually leading to more emissions, which were already stored. Looking at agriculture is not only the crops. We have livestock. We have the issues to do with methane. We also have a key contribution from food loss and food waste. How we manage from the farm to the end user, either farm to fork or a farm to the market. So there are a lot of value chain. The entire value chain of agriculture, if not done sustainably, actually is leading into climate change because of the emissions. Every aspect of
every step of the way, there's something.
There's emissions. But again, even with agriculture being a leading contributor, if agriculture is done sustainably, actually is one of key solutions, or rather some of key mitigation approaches that countries can actually tap into, ensure they reduce their emissions, they improve communities' livelihood, because a lot of rural livelihoods thrive because of agriculture. And also for us Africa, almost our GDP largely depends on agriculture. And some of these actions that we can take, and our government has been very keen to do strategic policies, is now the climate smart agriculture strategy, which is also outlined in our NDC, the Nationally Determined Contributions. And what we talk about climate smart agriculture is farming in more advanced, more inclusive, more sustainable approaches. Instead of tillage or plowing. Initially for us, Africans lazima tulime tupalilie. But people fail to understand anytime you're doing this unsustainable tillage, actually you are making the soil to release carbon and also interfering with some of the ecosystems within the organisms in the soil that are actually critical. So people should learn how to farm without this kulimalima every now and then. We have issues to do with fertilizers, the synthetic fertilizers. And when we're talking about food security, actually, I was asking my friend, do you think we are able to produce more because we use fertilizers, or we could even produce more without fertilizers? Why is it that every African farmer, or rather any Kenyan farmer, they believe that if I fail to apply fertilizer, my crops, the crop yield will go down?
I feel like it's because most of the land has already been destroyed because of the unsustainable farming method. And so if you destroy your land, you'll have to put more to produce more.
Yeah.
Or if you use your land sustainably, you won't lose much of the minerals that are there. Then you won't have to use a lot of fertilizer to produce more.
Yes, that could be right and also wrong at the same time. How many farmers do you know they carry their soil tests? Almost, let's say 10%. So assume today I do not know what nutrients my soil lacks, and I buy this fertilizer,
And you put
Yet-
the wrong one.
yet my soil, as there already exists nutrients that I'm applying this fertilizer. So even with these synthetic fertilizers, we are advocating for organic. But even with the synthetic fertilizers, farmers actually need to be trained on how to do their soil testing to know which nutrients lack and also to know which pH levels, because sometimes they apply fertilizers because of weather patterns which are not sustainable. There is scorching effect. You find the soils are more acidic because you keep on adding something that you do not even understand. So it's a whole value chain to ensure, first of all, the health of their soils, and we can only determine the health of our soils by doing soil testing, mapping, knowing what does it lack, what is it needed, what do I have in surplus, and do that. Now farmers are able now to supplement what their soils lack, and at the end, because we are not only talking about food security, we're also talking about having healthy and nutritious food. And the nutrition value actually is determined more on the soil health, the nutrients in the soil. So that's again another thing that actually farmers need to do to ensure we try to integrate
really important.
the entire value chain.
Because I'm over here thinking of how even the farmers themselves or us, like if you're doing something, sometimes you do it subconsciously, not noticing that you're actually destroying what you're supposed to be depending on, which is quite sad.
Yeah,
that is so sad.
Yeah,
Anyway, because you're a youth and you've been in the youth space, which opportunities do you think youth have to tap into the space and ensure that they can take up the land restoration processes?
Ooh, I like that when you talk about with the land, because I believe the next millionaire actually is going to be a farmer. And I'm always upset when I have to Google and say, and when Google tells you the average age of African farmer is 50, and I'm like, where are we young people? I know in the past,
Do you farm?
Yes, I do. And it really upsets me because I know actually the agricultural space is supposed to be occupied by young people, because first of all, we have the energy, we have the skills, we have innovations, we are able now to integrate modern farming technologies. But when it comes to land sector, and I'm speaking now for the Kenya and also our continent is Africa. If you look, we say Africa is a youthful continent. And it's been a youthful continent, actually it has a rate of unemployment rate for young people. Why? Because we want fancy, amazing things. We do not want actually to be associated with agriculture, which is it's a narrative that actually has intoxicated our mindsets, that agriculture is pathetic, is for people who have not gone to school. But there are so many opportunities. First of all, is in agribusiness. And I usually tell young people, agriculture has a lot of sectors. Not necessarily
Going to the farm
be the farmer
and
to
digging.
cultivate, and you could do so, but there's a huge value chain that young people can tap in space and actually make a living, build their own resilience, create employment, and thrive. And also help in reducing or rather mitigating impacts of climate change. We have things sectors like agribusiness. We have value addition, whereby you come up with an innovative idea. It could be through sun-drying things, it could be coming up with reduce or increasing shelf life of a product, coming up like when people steal this goat in the pastoral community, using that leather to make something out of it, like adding value to already what is existing in the agricultural sector. We have issues to do with green innovation and technology. Young people, when it comes to technology, there are so many technology in the agricultural space that young people can tap into. Perhaps coming up with a toolkit or an application to link a farmer directly to the market without the middleman. Those are innovations. Coming up with things like hydroponics. Hydroponics is a green innovation that came, like soilless farm. There are so many innovations that young people can tap into. Tapping into transport sector, because due to food waste, food loss that happens between farmer and this, they can come up with a sun dry or a solar powered transport mechanisms to ensure they can transport food without getting lost. We have things to do with regenerative agriculture. We have urban agriculture, and actually the urban agriculture is getting a lot of momentum, especially in the cities, and especially for young people living in and you find you just grow your kales, you can sell to the people in the apartment, or you could use them instead of, and the money that was supposed or rather dedicated for these vegetables, you use something. So there are so many opportunities that young people can tap into. There are so many things that can trigger or rather can bring a lot of opportunities and also generate a lot of income for young people.
Oh, that's nice. And in the nexus of land and street planting, which challenges can you highlight at there?
The challenges are so many.
No, just give us three.
Three
challenges, three major challenges.
First of all is climate change. It's a challenge by itself, because when you're doing restoration and growing trees, these trees will need a conducive environment and climate for them to thrive. And that's why sometimes you find people, they plant trees, and if they lack water to do irrigation or other, and the rains fail, the trees will dry up. And it's really demotivating when you're doing restoration.
It's frustrating.
Yeah. It's frustrating, and sometimes people give up because you can't keep on doing something. So climate change has been one of the biggest hindrance. Second, another challenge is now for young people trying to convince the community why we need to grow this tree at this place, because of either cultural, either knowledge, either mindset. Some communities are glued to this certain thing. Like, I'll give you an example from where I come from. If people in my community have not planted maize and beans, they have not, to them that's not farming. Yeah, to them that's not farming. So you find community, they hold some of this belief, this knowledge, and try to convince them actually this is actually what is sustainable, which is modern. And another thing is now bridging scientific and indigenous knowledge. That has been the biggest challenge that actually we're in the land sector and even in the agriculture sector, because the science and indigenous, they do not, I'm not saying they do not agree, but they do not meet at a point to supplement and so you find both indigenous practices are good and sustainable. You find due to climate change, due to changing dynamics, the modern scientific is, but now we need to meet at center to integrate all these practices and now to improve, because you can't rely on indigenous forever. You can also not rely on scientific. They need to meet at a nexus and complement each other and ensure actually the ecosystem and everything actually moves to the right place. So and again, financial, especially for young people, because sometimes setting up restoration, as much as we say it's a win-win and it's a cost-effective approach, it will need some finances and some resources just to ensure the entire process is smooth and effective. So if people lack the adequate or rather the resources that are needed, not necessarily financially, but any other resources that is needed, the restoration becomes very tough and also very impossible for communities to implement.
Okay. What about access to land? I know it's a
I don't know how you forgot. Now for young people and women, actually land ownership and land tenure has been the elephant in the room. Because for me as a young woman, if I cannot access land, if I cannot make decisions on my land, every day I feel I'm working on a borrowed time. Because today I tell you stop farming.
And there's nothing you will do.
Today I tell you instead of this was a study we were doing mapping, and we wanted to know why you have to grow maize and beans. Yet there are so many things that you can grow to improve your, because maize used to fail. They say, and I try to tell the owner of this land that is my husband or what, and they say no, you have to grow maize. So you find women and youth, they cannot make decisions on sustainability. And even things to do with restoration. Even when they have to plant trees in the farm, they have to consult. And even after they have done restoration and they have to consult, the entire final say, the man has the right to cut that tree anytime, even though you are the one who planted. So sometimes it makes restoration very hard because as a person, as a youth, and as a woman who do not have access or ownership, I feel my efforts will go to drain. So even issues to do with land ownership. And currently I'm so happy because last time I was in the village and there was some land buying and selling land. And actually I realized the law has transformed. Today, as the man of the house, if you want to sell land, you cannot just sell blindly. Unlike in the past, when you used to wake up and you find your father has sold the land and he has gone away. Current, I don't know if it's a law in the constitution, but now it's more of a policy. All your children, they have to be there, they have to sign, they have to consent that we have agreed this land to be sold. Because there was increase of people selling land, fathers selling land, and they're leaving their children with nothing to inherit. But the current policy, which I'm super excited, is that everyone in the family has to consent for a sale of ancestral land. So this makes young people, if they do not consent, if me as a father have not given my children land, they will not consent me selling. So at the end, the children will be able now to access that land, subdivide, and also issues to do with issuance of title deeds. Now at least it's becoming better.
I feel like I need to research on that one for inheritance and sale of land, because we are Kenyans, we are Africans. There are communities where the father will still have the say in this land.
But now currently I find chiefs and also what we call the informal council actually is doing a lot of work.
What does the Kenyan law say about parents consulting their children before sale of land? In a landmark ruling in 2020, the High Court ruled that parents have no legal obligation to consult their children in the sale of land or transfer of inherited property. The High Court judge in 2023 said parents have the freedom to sell their land without consulting their children.
While some communities have adapted and devised other ways of operation, without the provision in law, rulings in court on the same stand as the reference points.
The current law by our Kenyan constitution, that even girls are entitled to land ownership, at least now. At least now, even today, I'm so sure my dad, through constitution, he should give me land. Unlike in the past when it was like land was owned by men. But now when women, because 70% of restoration is done by women, 70% of activation, women toil every day in the farms. So when now they get now this right to own land, it means a lot of things should be done. And I always say any restoration project, I'm not being a feminist, I love all gender.
I felt like we are going the feministic side.
No,
but
no.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it's scientifically proven.
Yeah.
Any restoration projects that are women-led, actually they
Successful.
thrive. Reason, because they understand the need, they know the gaps, and since in the African culture it's their duty to feed families. So when they're doing this restoration, they have one key goal to achieve, and they have a problem they need to solve.
They have the family in mind.
And I tell you, with Wangari Maathai, when she was mobilizing the Green Belt movement, they realized we had a big problem. Collecting firewood, water, all those challenges, and they were brought together by one common problem. How do we empower ourselves as women? And now she came with the Green Belt movement, and they went planting trees because having firewood was a problem. There were a lot of challenges, and you've seen how the Green Belt movement was able now to mobilize a lot of women to do restoration, to come together to do some of these sustainable approaches.
Oh, that's wonderful and mighty. So as we come to a close, before the close, you highlighted certain challenges. Of course, we've discussed some of the things that are being done to tackle some of the challenges. But if it's something you've experienced, how have you overcome some of them?
As a young person, one of the biggest challenges that I realized I faced when I was starting, and majority of my people, is lack of the adequate and knowledge needed. So along the way, because it's a learning process. Today you face this challenge, tomorrow you meet someone, they tell you ABCD, the other day you find someone telling you contradictory information. So one of the key ways I've been able to overcome is now to go back and learn, to build on my skills, so that I know whatever I'm doing, I'm speaking from facts, I'm speaking from what is scientifically correct, and I'm not actually contradicting the information, or rather I'm not leading
more of guesswork.
More of guesswork, or actually doing restoration in the wrong way. So for us young people, we need to build our own capacity, to go back, to learn, to ask questions, to partner with organizations, sometimes to volunteer to learn, because education is the only catalyst for change. And if you do not have the adequate, or rather the needed skills in restoration, actually you will be doing zero work and maladaptation and causing more. And another challenge that I felt was in inclusion, whereby people just included, or rather they will invite young people just to tick their box, because they start, young people should be included in space. So you've been included, but as others, just for organizations, for people to tick their boxes. So one thing that I realized, or I've been able to overcome, I usually make it sure, or rather make it known to anyone inviting me, I'm an equal partner as any other partner. I'm an equal partner just like any other expert. And if you do not treat me as an equal partner, then there's no need of me coming there to meet your requirement. So that's again something that young people can tap. Anytime you're invited, make known that even though you do not have the expertise, but you're an equal partner in terms of thinking,
and ideas about change.
Ideas, change. And another thing is collaboration. The youth space and young space can sometimes be very chaotic and broken, and everyone working in silos, and you find sometimes you are duplicating
the
projects. You are not able to get funds because organizations actually they want to see people are collaborating. So through the period and also getting funds, I've been able to realize the power of working together, coming together as young people, having one unified voice, and coming together now to say this is what we want. And actually, with a strong voice, you actually call for influence, policy influence, and also now organizations start seeing that the youth movement is very strong, and it attracts a lot of donors wanting now to partner with a stronger youth network as compared to individual. And finally, believing in yourself. Restoration is not for faint-hearted. You'll go to communities they reject. You'll go to communities you try to bring change and they look down upon you first because you're a girl. Then second, they try to believe age and expertise. They go.
They're not at farm.
You're like, oh, you're so young. What are you saying? But every time you believe in yourself and you keep on pushing, because if you give up at the first time, nobody will do restoration because sometimes it's hectic, sometimes the results will fail. You need to go back to drawing board, and every day you learn.
It's a continuous process. So you have to keep on pushing.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. Give us your parting shots and your favorite quotes.
Okay, so my parting shot would be: it's time young people become united, because land is the only thing that we inherit from our ancestors and the older generation. And the question is, will we be able to inherit degraded landscapes or restored landscapes? And if we want to get restored landscapes, we need to start the change now. We need to capacity build our communities. We need to bring change so that we inherit landscapes that are beneficial and impactful to us. And restoration should always be our key agenda, because that's the only way we are able to build our resilience, create job opportunities, and also mitigate the effects of climate change. And my favorite quote is not actually anywhere written, but it's something that I was able to come up with. And I always say, a child without climate literacy knowledge is like a bird without feathers. No matter how much they try, they can never fly. So in everything that we do, we should ensure the current and the youthful generation actually have the most basic skills on climate change, climate literacy, sustainable living, SDG, try to link everything, and through that they will be able to fly beyond any challenge, whether brought by climate change, whether brought by changing dynamics in the atmosphere, or rather in the space, because they will have the feathers to fly above the climate impact and any other challenges that may come along their way. So climate literacy equals to sustainability, equals to life.
Wow, that's amazing. and I just like how your passion grew from a young person trying to bring about change for a younger person, coming up with an initiative to change the lives of people in the community, now not only the young, but to change the lifestyle of even people who are older, so that the young can inherit something better.
Yes.
And as you're saying that, if they need wings to fly, let the wings of the children and the youth not be clipped, but let them allowed to soar higher and higher. Thank you for being a part of this, Patricia.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And okay, if you've gotten to this part of the episode, we've come to an end. My guest was Partricia. She's shared knowledge, lots of knowledge. And so, bye from us. And remember to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share.
Bye.
Bye.